know your numbers, and you can only know your numbers if you know your audience. So you need to know how much money you're going to be able to raise and who's going to go watch that movie. Package. It's all about package. The package is going to get you money. Without it, luck. Hi, my name is Monella Kaplan, and I'm an independent producer. I got into the business about 17 years ago. I came 97 from Munich, from Germany, as a journalist for German television, and I really wanted to become a producer. Not from the get-go, but I wanted to make a transition after a while into producing. So I thought, how do you become a producer? Either you have the material or you have the money. I had none. First, I went to the extension program for 1 year and learned everything I could there. And then I applied to UCLA master's program in the producer program and got accepted. And had 2 absolutely wonderful years really learning and building a network, because this is one of the most important things that I think one can do as a producer is build a network. So there's 2 really important things. It is the network and it is the material. And of course the finances, but I got hired by Avi Lerner's company. At that time, it was New Image, and I was hired for one project initially in Romania, because I also speak. I'm initially from Romania, so I speak Romanian. So it sort of like made sense. I had just graduated film school. Actually, I was just graduating film school when I got hired, and 2 days after my graduation, I was on a plane doing my first movie in Romania. And from there, instead of 1 movie, it became 4 movies in the course of 2 years. I've been in the business for the past 17 years from all different angles, because I thought it was very interesting for me to see and experience all the different angles. And also life took me sort of that way. So, for example, I did development for a year for a studio producer, or producer with a studio deal. I was 4 years. I ran a post-production company. I was working in business development for the Post Group and Novastar. So I learned everything about the post-production process, so from that angle. Then 7 years ago, I came back to New Image and ran their work for them, representing their studios. At that time in Louisiana and also in Bulgaria. And then I built internally the licensing and merchandising department. So sort of really from all angles. And for the last 2 years, I've been building my own company, Emotion Entertainment. Went back. One project that I'm working on right now that I'm very proud of, it's called See You Soon, with starring Liam McIntyre and Harvey Keitel, Oleg Taktarov, and a newcomer called Jeannette B Milio. It's been really wonderful experience working in this movie, one of my best experiences. The filmmaker is David Mahmoudia, a first-time filmmaker, but established commercial director with a very creative vision. It's a love story. It's an epic love story, like they don't make them anymore. That took us through Greece, Romania, Russia. See You Soon is a story of a soccer player who gets into an accident, self-inflicted DUI. From top of his career, he goes into an abyss, decides to clear his head, goes on a cruise ship, and at the same time we meet Lana, the single mother of a boy who's the biggest fan of the soccer player. She's in an unhappy marriage, decides to leave and has to provide for herself and the kid, and takes a job on a cruise ship, and where the soccer player also is, and a romance ensues, and there's a lot of obstacles, and they have to separate in order to get a grip on their lives, and decide to meet at a certain time, at a certain point in St. Petersburg. It's Cinderella meets an affair to remember. Very heartwarming. It's like a lot of emotion in it, and I'm very proud of it. One called Cloak and Dagger. It's James Bond set in Elizabethan era. It's a lot of fun. There's swashbuckling, franchise potential. It's become very difficult to get films financed these days. The whole model has changed. The whole pre-sale model has changed. There's no more, you can't really, it used to be that you had a percentage per country and that you could achieve. That's no longer the case from my conversations with all sales agents that I have right now. And it's all about cast. It's all about the opportunity to to have recognizable cast just because there is so much competition at work. So having the right package is really what gets your movie financed. And everything outside the box, it's very difficult. You either have to have a director that is established. So that's what's happening with some of the so-called new disruptors or new kids on the block, like Amazon and Hulu and Netflix. With them, you can have up-and-coming talent on the one hand, but they also are looking for established talent and they're looking for filmmakers. So package. It's all about package. The package is going to get you money. Without it, luck. I do have one TV series that would be great there. I would love to do something with either Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. I think they're incredibly creative. I have great respect for them. I think they have the stories that they bring to the audiences are the best. They have really pretty much taken grip of industry and have changed it to such a degree because they also took away all the cast. So it's very difficult as an independent film producer to find your cast because they're tied into projects with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. So finding availability or people wanting to leave and shoot somewhere else because instead of shooting at home, it's become increasingly difficult. So it really has changed. Everything has changed. I think it's very important to know when you choose your material, to choose your audience, to have in mind what is the audience you're gonna, what kind of movie do you want to make? Do you want to make a commercial movie or do you want to make an artistic movie? But who's gonna watch it? So because that plays into your numbers. It's like, one of the advices that I would give is know your numbers. And you can only know your numbers if you know your audience. So you know what market and demographic you're catering with. And then so yes, it's a matter of taste for you, as an independent producer. But you should also know what the demographics is and who are you catering for, because that's gonna you're building your business plan, so you need to know how much money you're going to be able to raise and who's going to go watch that movie. All right, so the question is studio versus independent versus versus independent with a commercial appeal or independent with an artistic appeal. If you go the studio route, obviously you have a very different sort of platform. You go through a long development process. You're responsible to various people within that system and machine, various executives, and as a producer, the studio owns that property, so you don't own it, your IP. As an independent producer, that's with a drive is and the pride is the fact that you're going to own your property. Sure, with investor and you have to give something to talent and so on, but at the end of the day you have much more freedom when you start out, for sure. And versus commercial versus artistic, it's whether you have in a way what your taste it and whatever, if you dare to go the artistic side, because obviously that's it's a much more steep road with lots of obstacles. So my company is Emotion. It's called Emotion Entertainment, and I called it. I was very happy that the name existed. First of all, I couldn't believe it. And I made a transition from being a journalist to becoming a producer because I thought if you're as a journalist, unless you tell the weather in Los Angeles, you never have really good news. So I wanted to make a transition that I'm going to entertain people. I wanted to really go out and entertain people, take them on a ride for 2 hours and make them, laugh, cry, be scared, whatever it is. I don't make, for me personally, I'm not really into the scary movie. So it's a film process. You have to live for a couple of years with it. It's just a personal choice. I don't like to be scared. I prefer to laugh and to cry and, I love adventure. Action adventure movie. That's a personal choice. In my case, I think I go from my own instinct and whatever comes on the table, whatever I can find. Sometimes it's not even, you're looking for something. You maybe exclude things that you from the beginning, but you also have to find the right material, and then you go out and try to, as an independent producer. I mean, I think studios are different. I think they sort of custom make what they want to put out, and sometimes they have there needs to be on an existing IP, be it a book or a comic book. This trend is also in the independent world. Sure, it's always much easier to have an existing IP that you can as source material, but on my personal view, I mean, I'm looking at something and I fall in love with it, and then I'm trying to make it work. So that's how, in my case, but it might change. When I'm looking for material and when I find the right material, so the first step I'm looking for is a director, because cast is always going to ask, who's the director. So in some cases with, big producers, and usually where the cast would come on board maybe as a producer, then you would attach an actor, but it generally is director. Director is and find the right person that will share the vision that you have for the movie. So, and then after that, you go to talent. Obviously, that's called packaging. At the same time, at the same time, though, you do work on the budget. You do look for the finances. You do pitch. You have your list of directors that you pitch already with investors. So it all goes in tandem. Most producers look for tax incentives locations. I mean, just because it's a line item, and I know having represented studios in the past in Eastern Europe, I know how difficult it is to make a selling point to producers if there is no tax incentives there. Just because for financiers, it's just a line item. Having 25% of the get-go that you're going to get back within your budget, it just looks very attractive. So yes, you look for tax incentives, definitely very, very important, and you look for the best tax incentives that match your movie. If you have a movie that takes place in Alaska, you're probably not going to shoot in Dominican Republic, even though they have 40 to 60%. I'm just making it up right now. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but you're going to look for that, and best crew. There's a lot of things you can look for from the get-go. So whether you look for co-productions or not depends on the movie. If it's a European movie, absolutely. A period movie, I have one right like that set in 15th century. So yes, I'm looking to build it as a co-production just because it makes sense. But again, if it's a US-based story, then you're just going to be looking for tax incentives and finding your money, and the distribution, which is very important. Well, once you get the material, you're going to sort of look out in regards to the financing to find your investors. And I think so the bank would be if you take off what your sources. So you have equity, you have bank, you have tax incentives. So the first one you're going to decide is where you're going to go, right? And what's your tax incentive. And then you're going to look for your director to build a package. And at that point, probably latest, when you have a director, you're going to look for financing, equity finances, and pre-sales. Most directors, most agents will ask, is it financed? So it's the chicken and the egg. So I think best to go about it is find investors that do like the material, and give them a list of directors, and they write you a letter of intent. So an interest that say, okay, based upon either named, a list of named directors or A-list directors, then we would be interested in coming on board. And that's how you build your confidence, knowing that, okay, so I have these financing sources that are coming on board, and you go out and build a package. You bring in sales agents usually when you have a director, because beforehand they will look at, based upon relationships, they will look at the script and they say, yes, we really like it. I have such instances, and say, no, let us help you, run the directors by us. It's very relationship based business. So that's also one of the things that I really want to encourage, to build a network, and have other people take your calls at an early stage, and build a relationship with them on that project from the get-go, so that they can look at the script and they can give you feedback on your director and package, so you do not navigate in a vacuum of whatever you think might be good, but the market reality looks very different. A sales agent is really important as a sounding board, and they can guide you. With a good sales agent is there to support you, because he wants to have product that it will sell. So, and they know the market, they know the market from an international standpoint, and they can sort of think about, okay, what you're doing here might work for this country, but it's not going to work at all for that country. So, you need to take that into account if you're going to go that path or that path. Well, in regards to sales agents, there is a top tier. They're called, if I'm not mistaken, the Seven Dwarfs, which are the top tier companies. I'm not going to name them because they're well known. So everybody, but it doesn't mean, depending on what your project is, it doesn't mean that your project will fit within the slate of them. So you have to find a sales agent that's going to fit your project. You're going to have something big and commercial, definitely go with the bigger ones. If you have something artistic, find a boutique with a good reputation that is going to really take care of your movie and give you feedback and nurture it. It's about nurturing at that point. One should be very determined as a producer, very determined, and consistently persistent, determined, perseverant. However, one should know when to shelve it and move on. It might be sometimes that it's not about giving up, I don't like that word, but when to shelve it, when the market is not really responding to your material. So then find new material, put that in a corner, find new material, develop it, and move on something. It's good to be focused also, but also have multiple, but also multitask or have multiple projects. So there's always that balance between, don't spread yourself too thin by having, I don't know what the number would be, 10, 15 projects, but be focused, but also know that sometimes the market will take you in a different direction, and you need to know when to put it away and maybe get back to it. I mean, look, I remember I used to be in Women in Film, and Sherry Lansing was speaking, and the big great producer and Paramount, and she was telling about how difficult it is to make a movie. Took her 9 years as a head of a studio to make a movie, and movies, you have one director, it falls down, you put it in turnaround, you take it back, you build it again. So same with independence. I mean, there's things that are put in a drawer and on a shelf, and then you pick them up again when the time is ripe for that. I think when you are a beginner, it's very important to try to find a mentor. Try to find somebody who really responds to your passion and the material they're presenting, and try to attach yourself to a company. That's what most people do. It's also important to have good representation, so find a good lawyer. Each time you do a movie, it's like you're starting from scratch. Yes, credits, bring your reputation, and it becomes easier. That's what everybody works towards, getting credits, having experience. But it's still each and every time, and it's a conversation. I mean, it's not even that I have, but I know very established producers who are, singing the same song. It's very hard out there. It's like you building a company from start. Each time you're making a movie, and you have to make a business plan from the beginning. Build your executives, meaning your package and your cast. You building it from scratch each and every time. So it takes a lot of guts and perseverance and determination to really stay in this business, and passion. I think we have sort of lost that in today's market, sort of that middle budget, independent, artistic, in sort of like the 10 to 20 million range. That's more difficult. So you're sort of faced with big budget movies, mostly, as I said, based on an existing IP. And then you're faced with something that can be made for a certain amount of budget. So, you have the genre movies of that kind. I think it's difficult. I think who's taking right now who's doing these movies right now is Amazon and the disruptors, Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix. They're taking the risks that other companies used to do that. So a trend in the industry, I mean, obviously there's the trend to superheroes and as I said, existing IPs. And even on the independent side, the genre movies. So you have to, I think there needs to be more innovation in regards to that middle, sort of the stories where you have to take risks. Somebody who comes in from outside, and depending on the range, if they want, depending on how much money he wants to invest, I would say spread the risk. Usually the model would be as an investor to have try to bring in 20 to 30% out most, and the rest have it financed through industry sources. That way you're sort of protected as an investor, and try to spread your risk also with other investors. And if you have a bigger amount of money that you want to invest, probably a slate is my advice, so that when one hits, you can sort of balance out with the other ones that might not hit. It's a third party that will collect all the profits and revenues from the movie and distribute it according to the agreements that are in place. And that's your as an investor, I would definitely insist on having a collection account, because that's your safety and security net in making sure that you're going to get your profits back, or your profits back.